Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining us. This is episode 3 of Never Stories. We are hanging out with upstate Sassy Helen. We're going to have a chance to hear the amazing story that I've got to hear a part of so far, give you guys a chance to just jump in, hear it, and hopefully it motivates you and empowers you to become a better version of yourself. So, Helen, I'm going to hand it off to you and can't wait to get this story out there.
All right. Well, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Helen. I am a Army veteran. I served for 8 years. I am also a mama to 4 beautiful kids, 2 in college and 2 younger, and a dog mom. So I guess I'll just jump right into it. I grew up in a pretty rough situation. My father was a farmer, and my mother took care of people in the community that were sick. So she would go into their home and take care of them. And we had about 8 children packed into a 2-bedroom farmhouse and shared beds. Often were hungry, didn't have a lot of food. Would sometimes borrow food from neighbors, like a pack of hot dogs or something, just to kind of get by. Like I said, money was scarce. So we pretty much did what we had to do. Both of my parents were addicted to drugs and alcohol. They came up in tough situations with their families. So a lot of times the kids kind of raised each other. And we lived in a very small community, so everybody knew everything about everybody. And so we struggled with that a little bit in school because we were wearing hand-me-downs and we were wearing shoes that were kind of falling apart. And my father he spanked us. So there was a lot of times where people would call and let them know that we were being abused. So there were people in and out of the home, police that would come in the home and kind of check on us as we were coming up. But there was a time when my father decided he needed to leave the home and went into NA, Narcotics Anonymous, so that he could clean his life up. And he left, and my mother just kind of fell apart. And she met a man in Vermont. I was about 9 at the time, and put us to bed one night. There were 4 children in the home. I was 9, my sister was 10, and then there was a 5 and 4-year-old. She put us to bed, and she decided that she was just going to leave while we were asleep. So when we woke up in the morning, we were alone. We didn't have any food. There was no heat. We live in upstate New York, so it's very cold in the winter. And for 3 days, we were home alone. And the school finally called social services and let them know that we weren't there. That's when my father stepped in and decided that he would take us, into his home. Didn't know how to parent. My father didn't do any of the parenting, so that was kind of tough. As a young girl kind of growing up, and you're going through these life changes, and at 9, when you're going through, puberty and stuff, and your father has no clue, it was just really tough. It was really tough. And my grandmother stepped in to kind of help us out a little bit, but you basically had to figure it out on your own. So eventually my dad met another woman in Narcotics Anonymous who he could bring home and kind of rear some children. So he did. Of course, I got involved in partying with kids at school and smoking marijuana and drinking, and the crowd that would accept me without having to share too much of what was going on in my life. Around that time, I was sexually molested by a cousin of mine when I stayed over at their house. And went home, acted like nothing happened. I didn't want to share anything. What was I going to do? Tell my dad, So I kind of kept that to myself. Grew up, went to high school, didn't get great grades. Basically was told I'd never go to college. that my family was nothing, and that really I was just gonna kind of end up in that small town with a million kids and not married and on drugs, and I kind of had enough of that. And there was a point where I was at home one night and I attempted to take my life. So I broke apart a leg razor and I began to cut. And my stepmom found me and called for help. And a policeman picked me up in a patrol car and drove me a couple hours away, where I was put into a mental hospital for kids, so I could get treatment. And I was there for a couple months, kind of, I guess, evened out a little bit, and didn't really know how to go back into my world after that. I was in high school and everybody knew my business. And so when I stepped back into school, it was crazy. People were looking at me like, like I was crazy, and just a really dark, tough time for me. So I began to try to figure out how to get out of there. I didn't want to end up like my mom.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to end up on drugs. So my brother, who was an Army vet, started to encourage me to look into the Army. And I signed up and got on that plane and I left. And really it was good for me because I needed an attitude adjustment because I was mad at the world.
Yeah.
And I needed some help trying to get my life together because I knew I didn't want to end up like everybody else. I didn't want to be a product of what I was brought up in. I just refused. So the Army taught me discipline. I learned how to be proud of myself. I learned how to push myself beyond what I thought I could do. So that's what that did. It also got me out of the area. So I joined the military. I ended up meeting a man and got pregnant at 19. We got married. We didn't know what we were doing at all. We were just trying to get things together. I was living in the military barracks there, and I was about 4 months pregnant when, and cleaning my room one day, just minding my business, when a man came in and he raped me. And I was married and told my husband at the time, and obviously reported it and went through the rape reporting stuff and had to go through a court martial for the gentleman that did it, and who was finally put in jail. But when I told my husband, he began to look at me differently, like I was dirty and tainted. And a man that was so excited about having a son, we found out that it was a boy, really started to distance himself and started to drink, and didn't want to go to doctor's appointments, didn't want to feel the baby move in my tummy, didn't want to be involved, and which was really hard for me. But I had to make a decision. This wonderful miracle of a baby was growing inside of me, and I was not going to let his future or him being rejected or me being rejected for what happened in my life ruin this for me. So I just fell in love with my son. I wasn't alone anymore. I went to the doctor's appointments and I rejoiced, and I felt him move inside of my tummy, and I knew that there was going to be somebody there that loved me unconditionally, that was going to need me and want me. So I clung on to that. And when he was finally born and he was placed in my hands, it didn't matter whether my husband no longer wanted me. It didn't matter if my husband looked at me and thought that I was less than because of what happened to me. My world was in front of me. So I pressed forward. My husband was absent most of the time and was running around with other women. So I just focused on being a mama. I focused on, doing my job in the military and keeping my home. Um, I found out that we were pregnant when my son was 1. And my husband actually got deployed on a humanitarian mission to Central America. And we found out we were having twins. Um, but with all of the emotional stress of, again, him continuing to cheat and trying to work and take care of my son alone, I lost the babies. And he decided, well, my husband decided he wasn't going to come home, that it wasn't something that he needed to leave work for. So went to the hospital, and they did what they needed to do to finish the termination of the pregnancy. Trudged along, you know, just working, doing my thing. It was then where I finally was introduced to some people in my community. And there was a man there, and I don't really know, I can't even really remember how he came into my life, but he knew that I loved to sing as a little girl. As he got to talk to me, he realized, you know, that I loved to sing. And anytime anything was hard for me when I was younger, I would go off on my own and I would just sing, and it would make me feel better. And he talked, and he got to know my husband, and come to find out, the pastor. And he actually, you know, invited me to come to church and said, you know, you really could sing with us. And so I didn't know anything about God. I didn't know anything about it at all. And these women just kind of grouped around me, and I joined the worship team. I wasn't saved. I hadn't given my life to the Lord. I was still cussing. I was still drinking. But yet these people let me go in there and sing and do the very thing that I was so passionate about. And it was through that, and through singing and the emotional move and the emotional connection I have with music, that I came to find that there was someone out there that was with me my whole entire life. From the time I was a child up until the very moment that I came to the realization that actually loved me. That loved me. That thought I was worth this huge sacrifice for. And that coming to know him, I could be forgiven for all of the things that I ever did wrong in my entire life, and can be looked at as if it never happened, that I could be fully accepted. So I jumped into it. They called me Sister Faithful. I was at church 24/7. If you need me to clean those bathrooms, I was cleaning those bathrooms. Pews, all right, I'll clean the pews. It didn't matter, because I finally found a place where I could feel loved. And so I jumped into it. I began ministering to women. I began teaching children's church, and was eventually ordained. My husband was pulled into the church as well, and things started to get good. You know, they were getting better, and he eventually got ordained as a pastor. And the military moved us, and everything was great for a while, and we moved to Germany, and we were helping build churches. Life was good, and we decided to have 2 more children, which we did. So we ended up with a total of 4. While I was in Germany, I had a daycare because I love children, and I was running into a situation where there was children that had phobias of eating certain foods or had ADHD, and I didn't know how to help them. So I decided to go to college for psychology. And I studied psychology, and I received my bachelor's degree so that I could help these kids kind of connect and feel loved and just kind of build them up. So I did that. And next thing I know, we're transferred again to another duty station, and my husband is deployed to war. So I'm at home, single mom again, and just kind of making it work, going to church, doing my job. And my husband was a combat medic, so he was on the front lines, and he saw a lot of things that a lot of people wouldn't want to see. A lot of his buddies passed away. A lot of his buddies passed away in his hands because he wasn't able to help them. And so the mental impact on him was tremendous. And finally, when he came home, he was different. And he began to be very physical and very verbally abusive and drank a lot. He purchased handguns. And I would find him in the middle of the night, low crawling down our hallway, thinking that, you know, the enemy was in there and he needed to protect us. And so lots of nightmares and moments where he was very physical with me. And one day where I got kicked down the hallway all the way to the bedroom, just kicking me with some boots and trying to get away from him. And I don't know how it happened, but I'm telling you, something happened and I turned into the Hulk. And I don't know if you've ever seen that wrestling move where you put one arm between their legs and one on his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
But he was about 230 pounds. And in that moment, I picked him up and I slammed him on the bed and turned around and looked at him and I said, I wish you would just one more time. And I walked out. And that was the last time he put hands on me. The very last time he put hands on me. He decided while I was a stay-at-home mom, I had gotten out of the military, and I was a stay-at-home mom, taking care of the kids. He decided at work one day he would start talking to another married woman, and he began an affair with her. I was at home. I got a miscellaneous call from one of the women that he works with, and she just kind of let me know what was going on because she felt like it was the right thing to do. And I immediately began to try and save my marriage. Started asking him questions like, how do you want me to wear my hair? What kind of clothes do you want me to wear? What kind of food would you like to eat? And I began to lose myself in trying to figure out what I could be for him so that I could be enough.
Mm-hmm.
So that he would love me and he would want me because I believed that, you know, it was going to be for life. I'm your wife. These are our children. This is our home. But come to find out, I couldn't save it. And he moved out about 4 times, and I took him back about 4 times. And finally, one day he told me, if you love me, you will let me go. And something just kind of clicked in my head, and I said, you know what? Yeah, I guess, you know, I need to let you go. And so he packed up a U-Haul truck, and he drove the truck up as far north as he could. I didn't have any money. I didn't have a job. I had a car, but he drove us up to my parents' house in upstate New York, and I moved in with my parents for 4 children, and began to start over again. So my parents really took care of us for a while. And a couple of weeks later, my car got repossessed because he decided he wasn't going to pay for it anymore. And, you know, I found a job at Sam's Club, and I was pushing through and trying to just rebuild from a bankruptcy and a failed marriage. And my older children started to act out. My oldest daughter started to cut. So had to get help for her. My oldest son lost himself in video games because he said he felt like that was the only way that he could control his reality and what was going on in his reality. He also told me he wished his father never would have come back from war because he would have rather not have him back at all than have him not be the man that he was when he was raising him. And so we started over. The divorce happened, and the children found out off of Facebook that his father got married to his mistress on the same day. And I will tell you, though, that was the most liberating moment in my entire life. And I rejoiced because I was finally no longer the other woman in my marriage. Finally. And I took that moment to breathe. And every single night I would go behind my parents' house and I would have a fire, a campfire, and I would listen to music and I would just let myself cry and let myself scream and let myself feel the pain of everything. And I was tired and I was frustrated and I was angry and I was so mad at God. So mad at God because I did everything I possibly could to try and make it good, but it didn't work. So I stopped singing and I stopped going to church. Not that I didn't believe in God, but I was so disappointed because I felt like I had tried so hard and I'm left with nothing. I had moments of weakness where I did think about checking out and thinking, that my life would be better. It was very selfish. I thought my kid's life would be better. I still had my ex-husband calling and tearing me down and basically saying, that I ruined our marriage by being a whore. When the truth of the fact, the truth of the matter was that I was raped. And because I was raped, I was married. And it was shameful, and he could no longer love me or no longer want me, but yet have 3 more children after that. So I began to build. I got a job. I started saving money. I got a car. I got my own place. I just put my head down and I pushed. And no matter what, I was going to make it work. Because when I turned around, I had 4 people looking at me like, Mama, what are we going to do? So you do it. You find a way to do it. And I did. And I'm still trying and I'm still fighting. And every day it's a struggle. It's a battle not to get lost in the thoughts of poor me and to not get lost in the thoughts of, how am I going to make this work for tomorrow? But you just have to pull up your bootstraps and trudge through the ugly and get there. And like a year ago, my oldest children are now out of the home. My oldest son is in college. He's in RIT. Super smart kid, studying computer science, and is training to go and work for Disney. That boy did that on his own. And I'm so proud. He and his father do not have a relationship at all. I raised them the best that I could. But he refuses to have a relationship with his father, and that's okay. Hopefully one day that will heal. But he is a great kid. He is such a great kid. My oldest daughter, she just graduated from college. She wrote a book of poetry, and is now pregnant. So I'm going to be a grandma. And my youngest 2 children, about a year ago, my youngest son came to me and he told me, Mama, I love you, but I need Daddy to teach me how to be a man. So faced with another struggle, my youngest kids, they didn't have a lot of time with their father. Faced with another struggle, I couldn't deny him that opportunity, and I couldn't deny his sister that opportunity to know his father. So I made the hard choice to let them go and live with him for a year. And they got accepted into these really awesome schools because they're super smart kids. And they've been accepted into advanced schools. So I had to make another decision because I want my children to be great. to not only let them go, but to let them stay. Which now I'm faced with another problem because, or not a problem, but a situation because everything that I have known since the age of 19 was about being a mama. And my identity was so wrapped up in being a mama, and now I'm alone and I have nothing to come home to. And I have no one to hug me and no one to love me, and I'm just alone. So the dust has not settled yet, and I'm still trying to figure that out. However, along comes TikTok, and I find all of these fabulous, wonderful people that are broken like me, people that smile a whole lot and carry a whole lot of pain from their past, but beautiful people that need love and need support. And while I can't receive that back right now because I don't have a lot of people in my life, I can be that for somebody else. So I joined TikTok. And not only that, but I'm a creative person. I love music. I love, the arts. And so I can express myself in that way. And so I did. And then the next bump in my life, I go on a trip on my own to West Virginia over the holiday. And I decide I'm going to drive as far as I can drive, find a hotel, sit in a crappy hotel, watch crappy movies, and eat pizza in bed. So I go on this trip. I land in West Virginia. I have a wonderful time. I meet people that I've never met. I sit outside of a coffee shop and listen to this guy play guitar for like 4 hours. And decide to take a trip to Michigan because I have a friend up there that I met from TikTok who was having a tough time. And I just decided to add 10 hours onto my trip just to go make sure they were okay. While in Michigan, it begins to rain really, really hard. And I pull my car over to the side of the road to wait for the rain to let up and recline my seat back in my car just to rest a little bit. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. And I wake up to the tail end of a tractor trailer passing by my driver's side window really slowly, almost like a Transformers movie, and I smell gasoline. My first thought was, the car is on fire. I'm going to die. What am I going to do? So I climbed out of the passenger side door and up the hill and called 911. I didn't even realize that I had been in this huge accident. Police showed up. I walked down to my car and looked at my car, and it was just wrecked. And me being me, because I'm a jokester, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, yes, I finally get rid of that piece of crap car. I haven't wanted this car forever. And then the second thought is, man, how am I going to get home? Mm-hmm. I had a concussion. My face was cut and I was bleeding. I didn't realize that I had been in that big of an accident. The tractor trailer driver told the cops, it wasn't a big deal. There was nobody in the car. And the thing that resonated with me was that the police officer said she should be dead. She shouldn't be alive. And so the police dropped me off at a hotel. I was in Michigan by myself, suffering from a concussion, an enlarged kidney that I didn't know that I actually had a kidney infection and became infected while I was there. So I was alone in Michigan after this crazy accident. I couldn't sleep. Day after, I was racked with so much pain that I found the emergency room and I brought myself there. And the doctors basically said, kidney infection. I had all this stuff going on in my body. My back was just wrecked. My head was killing me. And that's where I broke down. And that's where I had PTSD. I had been in this situation where I was so close to death and I didn't know it. The tractor trailer truck hit my car at 70 miles an hour, and my car was pushed over 60 feet forward, and I didn't even know it. I don't know what happened to my body while I was passed out. And my fear, my PTSD was connected with sleep. So if I go to sleep, am I going to wake up? And rain, because it was raining outside. And I've been trying to catch those moments that I've lost since then. It's like I'm trying to slow down my presence so I can gain back that time that I lost. And it's hard. It's hard to wonder why I'm still here. And anyway, I got released from the hospital and I went back to my hotel room where I was for about 5 days on my own, trying to figure out how to get home, going through all of this on my own. And had moments where I was so confused and I couldn't talk. There was a delay between my thought process and my words, and was afraid that wouldn't go away. And what if I go home and the people that knew me how I was? So I got back to the hotel after the accident, had a major concussion, was stuck in the hotel for about 5 days. There were moments where I couldn't remember where my room was. So the cleaning lady began to look out for me and would find me often sitting in the hallway crying because I tried every single door and I couldn't figure out, where I was staying. I spent a lot of time alone thinking, rolling the accident over in my head, and really just in shock about how close I was to death, but unaware of it. And thinking over my life and everything that I had been through and struggled through, and wondering why I was still here. If it was just going to be a continuation of pain and continuation of struggle to just try to maintain, my life. My sisters got in a car and drove from New York State to pick me up, to bring me home, where I then spent a month at home by myself. In that time, looking back over everything and really feeling like I was living on borrowed time, I needed to make a decision. I needed somehow to make all of the pain and all of the hurt and all of the suffering, whether it was a result of my own decisions or the decisions of other people, I needed to make it mean something on this side. And I needed to be able to say that I went through it for a reason. And so I decided to bring purpose to my pain. And the only way that I knew how to do that was to stop feeling sorry for myself, stop feeling bad and feeling like the victim, and start putting it all up under my feet so I can raise myself up. And the only way that I can do that is to use it. And so I decided that if there was anyone out there that knew what it felt like to be belittled and hit and rejected or unloved, that I was going to make it a point to show them love and compassion and what it's like to feel that unconditionally, no matter what. Even if they were a stranger, I was going to pour it out on them because I never wanted anyone to feel what I felt in my lifetime. So that's what I'm doing. I want every single second of this life that I have on the other side to be all about investing in people until there's nothing left of me. I want every single person that comes into contact with me to feel like they have been loved. And that's what I'm doing. And that's why I'm doing this. Because if I can just let one person know that there's somebody out there that has been through it, that has been so close to wanting to end their life and wanting to end the pain, but yet somehow found a little bit of strength to keep pushing on, then that means what I went through was not in vain. And that's why you see me on TikTok making videos, trying to be inspirational, trying to build people up, because my life right now is dedicated to that. And that's my story.
Well, Helen, I love it. I can't tell you how or why I ended up on one of your lives one night. Just sitting there it's funny because I don't get on the For You page a whole lot at this point. I stick with who I follow, but you showed up one night and I was like, I don't know who this is. Let's go check it out. And and over a few weeks, this developed out of it. And your story is phenomenal. It's incredible. It's powerful. And I can't thank you enough for sharing it. I was on a phone call the other night with a friend of mine, and we were talking about a quote that another TikTok creator had going on. And you mentioned empowering people and being there and being that light. And what he said in one of his lives were, when we're in our moment of darkness, everybody tells us that, oh, you're depressed or whatever is going on, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, which I am a firm believer in that. I believe we always have something that we're pushing for. But he brought a whole new spin to it. And what he said was, what if you were the light at the end of somebody's tunnel? What if you're the reason they make it through? And almost every day since then, I have found a way to work that ideology into conversations. And I believe with your story and what you've gone through, I believe there are going to be so many people, men and women, that are going to see it. And you have the opportunity to be that light and that guiding source to get them through. We had a little conversation that, we were talking about hurt people, and how true that is. But in stories like ours, where we were hurt, and we add on to that yes, hurt people do hurt people, but hurt people who heal people who hurt.
Yeah.
And that is our mission. And I am so glad that you're out here and you're doing what you're doing, and we get to share your never story with the world. So, Helen, the final question, the way we end every never story. Never. What's your definition?
Never will I allow not one moment of my life to be wasted. Not one tear, not one breakdown, not one moment at the bottom of the barrel will I let that be wasted. But I'm going to turn it into something that is useful, that is beautiful, that is empowering, and that can build somebody up. I will never sit down and accept defeat, and I will never be the person that my past tried to define me as. I can't do it. There's somebody else out there that needs to be strengthened, and I'm going to hold up their arms for them and help them breathe if need be. And so I'm not going to accept defeat. I'm not going to.
I love it. I love it. Well, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of this. Helen, thank you for sharing your story. So guys, all of Helen's information will be tagged in the comments below. You can find her on TikTok. By all means, join her in one of her lives. They are some of the most uplifting and fun times. Guys, thank you, and look out for the next Never Story.